at an example for how to use your graphing calculator to find the standard deviation of a data set. First, we need to tell the calculator what data set we are interested in finding the standard deviation of. And as with all data sets, we're going to enter them into the lists in the calculator. So we begin by pressing Stat, which is right over here next to the arrow, directional arrows. And we're going to choose our edit option so we can start to edit our lists. Now, for the sake of time, I've already entered our data set. You'll notice that the data set does not need to be in numerical order. It does not need to be in order from least to greatest or greatest to least. The calculator, when prompted, will do that work for you. But for the purposes of standard deviation, we definitely do not need it in order from least to greatest. If we want to calculate the standard deviation and other options that are available to us, we're going to go back into the Stat menu, and we're going to arrow over once to the Calc menu. Now, you might be familiar with some of these regression options, but we're not going to arrow all the way down to those. We're going to choose option number 1, which is our one variable stats option. We're going to leave the frequency list empty, and since we entered our data in list 1, we're going to make sure we have list 1 next to our list. If you don't have list 1 next to where it says list, you can press second and then the 1 key, which will call up that secondary option of L1 and enter that as your list. Once this says list 1, we're going to go down to calculate and press enter. And here is our set of data, or our set of key information about this set of data. You'll notice that it does provide a few key pieces of information. First, we have the average. This is our X bar, where our average for that data set was 7. The next one down that might be interesting to you, this large E-looking letter is sigma, and that is a mathematician's indication for a sum. So 42 is the sum of the numbers in that data set. The next one we're interested in is the one we came for, which is the standard deviation. So the calculator does all of that background work for us. It finds all of those deviations, it squares all of those deviations, it divides them for us, and we end up with a standard deviation of approximately 3.58. N is the number of entries that were in the list, and if we arrow down, you may not know your calculator had the capability of finding the 5-number summary for you, the minimum, the maximum, the quartiles, and the median. And again, we did not have to give the data set in the correct order, least to greatest. The calculator sorted through those numbers for us and was able to produce all of that key information. But for the purposes of this video, in this extension, we are interested in the standard deviation. So this is our 1-digit summary of the spread of this data. We would expect, if the numbers were closer together, that standard deviation would shrink, and if the numbers were more widespread, that standard deviation would grow. So walking through the steps one more time, we begin by placing our data into the edit list, and I placed it in list 1. You could put it in any list you wanted. We go back into the stat menu and over once to calc, and we choose one variable statistics. We make sure our list is the list that we use to enter the data, and we calculate. This is a much more time-efficient option than having to do the standard deviation by hand and can save you a lot of work in the long run.